welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin. What if you take yellow and you mix it into the blue of a Rolex BLNR and then you look at it in the mirror? What do you get? You get a Rolex, what do you call it? Sprite. All right, well, I guess that's the new nickname, the Sprite. It's a great nickname, by the way. We got the Pepsi, we got the Coke, and now we have the Sprite. Yeah, there's no black in the can of a Sprite, but there's no black in the can of a Coke either, so it works. When it comes to Rolex, this was by far the most jaw-dropping and, in my opinion, amazing release, and this is the watch that we're gonna remember 2022 Rolex releases by. Now, whether you think the 2022 releases were a win or a fail, really, I realize can come down to one watch, because if one watch can emerge that to you is near perfection, then forget everything else. It was a good year, and that's how I feel. This watch is near perfection. It's got everything. It's got a little bit of quirkiness to it. It's got a little bit of green. It's got the perfect amount of green. Hulk, too much. Cermet, maybe just a little too much. 116710LN, not quite enough. That's kind of lacking something there. It kind of looks subbish, a little bit boring, right? But this is perfect. And the green 24-hour hand is back. And the shape, it's mind-bending, because like you're looking at a mirror image, an upside-down watch. Even my daughter looked at it and said, it's on the other side. It's jarring in a good way. Well, that is, if you can think outside the horological box, that is just not made for 10% of the population that's left-handed. And who is this watch for? Well, it's definitely for left-handed people, but it's also for people who want a quirky watch, and I think that's cool. But again, color-wise, it's got the perfect amount of green, and it's a beautiful green. It contrasts so beautifully with the black. And who is this watch not for? It's probably not for the person who buys it because of the green, but in spite of the left-handed aspects of it. Because in the future, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a regular version with a black and green bezel. Rolex does listen to us. I mean, they brought back the oyster bracelets on the GMT, and they put the 0 in front of the 5 on the Air King dial. So if you complain enough, you right-handed people, you just might get it. So I wouldn't go and get this if you don't like the aspect of the left-handed. Now, a viewer dropped a comment in one of my videos and said, Austin, you've got to drop by RSC and ask if you can change the bezel from a BLNR or a BLRO to this, and I'll feel this. Hell no, are you crazy? All right, that's what the staff would think, but they'd frame it in a more polite way. Ain't gonna happen. For now, this is just on this left-handed watch, and unless they really come out with a normal version, it's gonna stay that way. Surprisingly, one of the things that blew my mind most about this watch was the date. It's at the 9, and the crown is one thing, but having the date on the left, it's all about the little things, and for me, that really sealed it, and, well, it gives it that mirror image look that's so cool. Of course, there are advantages and disadvantages to this if you wear your watch on your left hand. If you are right-handed, having a crown on the right makes sense. I mean, it's a lot easier to set and wind, but once you're wearing it, it doesn't make so much sense, because how many times have you hit the crown on like a door jamb or something? I have. All right, so if you can get past the whole setting of the watch, then wearing it, well, it's going to protect that crown even more. And not that I have a big problem with this, but the crown digging into the back of your hand, that ain't going to happen. So this could make a lot of sense for even people that wear their watch on their left hand. As far as setting it, well, winding it will be really weird, because you'll have to wind it with your left hand, or you turn it around, but you're not going to be winding it this way. You're going to be winding it back. Now, when it comes to setting, you could always set it with your right hand. You'll just have to set it upside down. Honestly, that's probably the way I would do it. But if you're like me, you wear your watches for weeks or months at a time, and it's not going to be a big deal. It's got the 3285 movement, just like the BLNR and BLRO. That movement came out in 2018, and it's crazy that it's got the same movement, because there are different parts. At least one is different. I mean, the date disc, unless all 3285 movements have double-sided date discs. Whoa. I imagine for a watchmaker, breaking down this movement and then putting it back together might deserve a little bit more attention. You can get it on the Oyster bracelet or the Jubilee bracelet. Now, you know that I like the Jubilee bracelets. I mean, I think a Pepsi or a BLNR on a Jubilee bracelet looks fantastic. But strangely enough, when it comes to this watch, I think the Oyster looks better, and I don't know why. The shape, the color, that shouldn't make any sense, but for me, this looks phenomenal on the Oyster bracelet. It's funny because my friend Matt Stevens feels the complete opposite. He thinks the Pepsi and the Batman look better on the Oyster and that the Sprite looks better on the Jubilee. So it's weird that it should even matter. But do you have a preference? Drop a comment in the comment section. What do you think looks better? The Green Lantern is another nickname I've heard bandied about, but I hope that one doesn't stick. I'm not a fan of the superhero nicknames, but what about this? All right, think of a cartoon character that wears a little bit of green, a green sweater, who's a little bit quirky, left-handed, but more than likable. The Ned Flanders. All right, so if you don't like this watch, I guess you could call it the Ned Flanders. One viewer threw out Gurmit. GMT sermon. I thought that one was surprisingly good. Only watch people would get it. Hey man, that's a beautiful Gurmit. Gurmit? Yeah, GMT sermon. Sermon? Yeah, Sermit, like Kermit. What are you talking about? Only watch people. So it's a beautiful watch. I think they nailed it, knocked it out of the park. It's color-wise beautiful. It's quirky. It's interesting. I love it. For some people, the 2022 Rolex releases, it was like going to a party where there was nobody interesting there. It would be sort of like a forgettable party and kind of you'd regret going. But for me, there were a lot of uninteresting people there, but there was one beautiful, beautiful, say, French girl, and she made the party, and she was beautiful and interesting. I can't shake the feeling that perhaps she's not made for me. I mean, she's French and she doesn't speak English. I don't speak French, but like this watch, dealing with her, and I'm talking about winding it and setting it and whatnot, she just might be worth it because she's so beautiful. It's safe to say that this watch, for me, made 2022. Let me know what you think about it. Take care. Thanks for watching. See you next time.